My name is Robert McClanahan. I'm an Irish Republican. I live here at the moment in the Divis area of West Belfast, and I have been involved or caught up in the conflict in Ireland since I was 11 years of age. So that has impacted on my life. You can still see the bullet holes here. I would also work as a tour guide on the falls and the Shankill Road. Okay, so here we have an example on the wall. Trying to explain to tourists or to foreign people what the conflict was actually about, how the conflict started, what happened during it, how we got out the other end, and how it should never happen again. Yeah. So here on the falls, we were saying, how do you remember all the Republicans who died during the 25 years of the military conflict? So the community decided to build this garden itself to remember the Republicans who died. So for me, this is a personal space, but that's me. But if you think of yourself as someone from the other side of the wall, someone from the other side of the conflict, for them, this is a shrine to terrorism. This is a shrine to the IRA and should be destroyed. So even though the military conflict is over, we still have that conflict every day about legacy, about memory, and how do we deal with the past. So that battle, that political battle, is still going on. Then we meet at the gates that we call Checkpoint Charlie. That's it. Literally. Exactly, literally one step, and you have left the Catholics, the nationalists, the Republican community behind. And with that one step, you're now in the Protestant, the Unionist, the Loyalist community. And then we hand over to Noel. Okay, Noel. And he will bring the same tourists down the Shankill Road. Noel will do the second half of the tour. So thank you very much then, okay? Okay, Noel, a pleasure. Okay, take care now.
Think along the lines of, if you look up the street.
My name's Noel Large. I live here on the Shankill Road.
So vicious that you see over here. Over here.
I'm a Protestant, Unionist, Loyalist, brought up in a very Protestant, Unionist, working class background. Brought up very much to be fearful and be distrusting of Republicans.
This memorial is a perpetual reminder of an atrocity across the road. The IRA come round, they have a bomb in a car, they open fire in the pub, then they throw the bomb in, they get in the car and they drive off. But still, innocent people in the pub, boom. Look at the date, 23rd of October 93. And the good thing that came out of all this is the peace process was not derailed. And less than a year after those two atrocities, you have all the groups on ceasefire. Primarily, Republican and Loyalist paramilitaries have not attacked each other in a paramilitary sense, and long may that be the case. So we're going to finish our tour further down the road here.
I tell my story because I believe it, and I believe it's the truth. I don't tell it because I want to change the course of where we're going. You ask me about something that happened down there, I give you an opinion. The last thing I would want to do is be involved in propaganda. What I'm telling you is fact. Do you know what I mean? Because I've lived it. And people sometimes are interested in that. So it's important to me to tell my story. As regards to Shankill, traditionally we have been brought up to say nothing, to doff the cap at the big house and not tell our story out of a sense of loyalty.
Personally speaking, all they ever got was the BBC version, the British Broadcasting Corporation. So they got a one-sided version of what happened or what is happening here in Ireland. So I would give you a very clearly Irish Republican version, and he would give the British Loyalist version. And that's why we call the tour Conflicting Stories, because there's not one story, there's not one narrative about what happened in Ireland. So the tours is to say we now need to actively listen to the other. We don't have to agree with them, but we have to be able to let people listen to both Loyalist and Republican.
Dans les quartiers populaires de Belfast, deux mémoires s'affrontent. La paix ressemble à un mur. Pour empêcher les violences entre les nationalistes et les unionistes, le gouvernement britannique a érigé ces murs, appelés « murs de la paix ». Ces cicatrices qui tailladent la cité se sont démultipliées depuis les accords de paix de 1998. Les murs nous livrent l'histoire, pas celle enseignée dans les livres officiels, ni celle d'ailleurs des vaincus ou des vainqueurs. Ils racontent l'épopée républicaine, de la guerre d'indépendance aux grévistes de la faim. Et puis il y a le sourire de Bobby Sands. Prisonnier politique, élu au Parlement britannique, Margaret Thatcher le laissa mourir en grève de la faim avec 9 de ses camarades, le martyr de la cause. Il est là, parmi les siens. Au cœur du quartier gaélique, le mur trace les contours de son identité. Mais la mémoire des uns n'est pas forcément la mémoire des autres. De Belfast l'irlandaise à Belfast l'anglaise, on passe la frontière. À Shankill, de l'autre côté du mur, on est loyal envers la couronne. On est sujet de Sa Majesté, on en appelle à la mémoire collective des unionistes. On se souvient du valeureux guerrier qui mourut sur le bord de la Somme. On perpétue la victoire historique d'un roi protestant sur un roi catholique. On célèbre la supériorité guerrière de sa communauté. La fin du conflit armé n'a pas résolu tous les problèmes. Les murs sont toujours là pour rappeler que l'inconnu, de l'autre côté, est l'ennemi.
The Protestant Unionist community is on this side of the wall, and the Catholic Nationalist community is just up there. My name is Chris O'Halloran. My job is Project Director at Fourth Spring Inter-Community Group here in Belfast. There's been a lot of investment in creating an end to violence, but peace is more than an end of violence. What we have here, it's a kind of apartheid. It's almost where there's an uneasy peace. So people here, people who live in the Shankill and the Woodvale, largely don't come through that interface gate. And the same's true in reverse. People, it's a separate living. And for us, that's not peace.
Le centre social de Fourth Spring, situé sur un mur de séparation, était à l'origine une église méthodiste, incendiée 3 fois durant le conflit.
I'm Donna Bates, and I live in Woodvale, and I live at an interface beside the Peace Walls. I go through the gates every Tuesday and every Thursday evening, and sometimes on a Monday night. It's a building which used for after schools and to bring two communities together. It's been here for a long time. I've been using the building for over 20 years. We do cooking together and we share stories.
You see, I think the setting of like this place, when we come and we meet up, it's a completely different story as whenever you're younger and whenever we would have been in the town. If we were in a place that was predominantly Protestant, like we would have been fearful. We would have, like, maybe unjustly, but it was just, you grew up like, this is what's going on, you need to be careful. And
the names was a giveaway.
Yeah.
You know, if I was Brona.
Yeah, or Orla.
Or Orla, you knew that was Catholic area, even if you didn't know. There was signs to say, a Protestant would say H,
And we
And
say
a Catholic
H.
would say H.
Yeah,
So you knew, and you would have been stopped sometime and they would have said,
yeah. Where
Say
are you
the
from or
alphabet.
whatever? Yeah. With me, I'm with a Protestant, I'm a Catholic and I'm with a Protestant. So in my religion, you have to be christened or you're not going to get into heaven. So me being a Catholic, I christened them as Catholic because that's what I'm told I have to do. I'd be really afraid of people finding out that my partner is a Protestant because, as we say, it takes one bitter person and that's all it takes is one, and then you'll be harassed, and I'm just afraid of the effect it would have. But my kids, I think they're going to be really confused because they are both of these things, but when they're here, they're only allowed to be half of themselves, and when they're here, they're only allowed to be the other half of themselves. So I would love a time where we've been looking into trying to get into a mixed community, like a mixed area where we all live together and stuff like that. It's just hard to get.
we do feel secure with the walls. It's because it's what we're used with. If they came down, there would be an awful lot of work to be done.
I just look out here in the mornings and just imagine my beautiful garden, even though I'm beside a peace wall and it's my back wall. I don't see it like that. I imagine I'm somewhere different. What it is to dream. My name is Catherine. I was born in 1969.
Oh my goodness.
I'm the same age as the peace walls, almost 50. I'm what's called a barricade baby. My mum was carried over barricade to the hospital. She was strapped to a chair. To let my father know I was born, I was announced on Radio Free Belfast. It's a symbol of, you know, the divide. Unfortunately for me, if they took the peace wall down, I would be very nervous. I would be very, it would, how could you say, it would actually bring up the sort of way, the anxiety, you know, the fear. When I was a young baby, about 3, they raided my mother's home looking, just looking for, we don't really know. I was only, as I say, a 3-year-old. And we were on top of Mummy's bed, and they actually threw the mattress up and we landed and hit the wall, me and my sister. It was searching for explosives, maybe guns, that was a regular occurrence. That kind of fear that has been instilled from the day I was born. Because remember, my mother was carrying me and her fears and worries and her anxieties and everything. I mean, it's been going on in the womb before I actually arrived here.
We're talking about you. So who's your daddy?
My daddy, Michael.
Michael, that's it now. They've been talking about trying to do something with the kids for years.
Yeah.
So I think it's appropriate, because it's 50 years ago, if you think about it. In August 1969, when the gates started to be put up.
Yeah, when I was born, Robert.
Exactly, I know.
Yeah, I'm a part of history.
50 years later, they'll take these gates away and they'll start replacing it.
Right.
But you don't want that just to be a one-off event.
Yes.
So we now have to sit down
You want it to be a knock-on effect?
with the lower Schenkel. So the option is going to be number 2, which is a totally see-through structure.
Yeah.
But it's okay seeing through. We can now see each other.
Yeah.
But that's only the start of the process.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
So the next project, if you like, is called Beyond the Gates.
Yeah. Right.
So how do we involve the young people from the lower Schenkel and from the falls? How do we involve the residents from the lower falls and the lower Schenkel coming together?
Yeah.
And how do we involve the old age pensioners, the old people who remember the violence and the destruction of August 1969?
Yeah, exactly.
And now we don't want to go back to it.
No.
So we've reached a point now, which I think is a bit historic, where after 50 years, this gate's coming down, and as a first step to be replaced by a totally open gate.
Say like fund an empty building and open it up under the one umbrella.
Well, that's
a
yeah,
hub.
Yeah.
For all, but for both sides to come to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just mind yourself, son.
You all right?
Here, do you want a hand? Oh, you all right? Do you want a hand?
I had to get shot there for them.
Exactly. You okay?
God, mind your ankles.
You okay?
Townsend Street interface gate. It's quiet today at 12:30 on a busy Saturday afternoon. There is a piece of work being done by both communities to one day see the end of this. Hopefully, we can really build peace in Northern Ireland.
My name is Robert Horace. I decided to become a community worker because I'm very passionate about where I live. I'm very passionate about the area in general, about the education, the housing, and about helping our residents promote themselves.
After the conflict, to start really dialing in and talking to our neighbours, because they are simply our neighbours. The only thing that separates us from the other side of the wall is a steel structure. Ugly as it is, we're hoping to remove all structures, but that's a long piece of work that will require a lot of trust. Me and Robert will be very proactive, working in these two communities to try and de-escalate, de-scale these barriers, but also to bring these communities together so that there is a common good. We are simply now saying that religion doesn't matter. We're trying to send that message. We don't care what church you go to on a Sunday, but while you live in these communities, we need to make your experience and your life quality that bit better. Stormont collapsed over the RHI scandal, the renewable heating scheme.
There was conversations between the two areas about starting a process of meaningful change. I think the first step in all this process is about changing the gates and then seeing how they're responded with people within the community. If the Protestant and Catholic communities can live by the changes on that gate, then you will see this change moving to walls and other structures that are keeping these communities apart. But we pretty much are about changing mindset and inviting people to our community to say, we're not here to be feared. We are here to simply make change for the residents.
We have come to a point where we need to reconcile those communities which fought the war, and recognising that the war was fought not over religion, but over the British occupation. So the wall is going to remain for another 5, 10, 15 years. So in my opinion, we need to concentrate more on the gates. There are people who have been severely traumatised during the conflict and who are very reluctant to change the gates because they're afraid of a repetition of what happened to them 40 or 50 years ago when we had the serious pogrom here on the Falls.
Nous vaincrons un jour. Des milliers de catholiques reprennent en chœur cet hymne du mouvement américain pour les droits civiques. Écrasés par la majorité protestante, les catholiques manifestent pour leur dignité et la fin de cette société ségrégationniste. Sur les murs de briques rouges de Bombay Street, s'est écrite une page sombre de l'histoire nord-irlandaise. En août 1969, ce quartier est réduit en cendres. Des milices loyalistes, soutenues par les forces spéciales de la police, attaquent. et incendie les maisons des catholiques.
There was armed, uniformed men came down in front of the crowd. They were doing the shooting. Then the crowd was behind them and they petrol bombed the homes. Everyone run for their lives, everyone, out of the streets. Dover Street and Percy Street were put out. They were put out of the homes. The other streets were burnt out. My mother lost her home, my sister lost her home, she lost a baby. And I didn't know where they were or what had happened to them. Everything was burnt. I don't know why these people did it or what they thought, what threat we were to them. I don't know. It wasn't troubles, it was a war. We were fighting a war. And what else could you call it?
We were sent round the houses to collect milk bottles to bring out to the adults so that they could make petrol bombs to defend the area. And then within an hour or so, I found out that my friend Geraldo, who was 15, had been killed, shot dead. So as an 11-year-old, you're not supposed to have your 15-year-old friends killed, you know, by gunfire.
L'armée britannique est alors envoyée en Irlande du Nord pour protéger la communauté catholique. De jeunes soldats sont postés le long d'une ligne de démarcation. C'est là que se construisent les premiers murs, des frontières de barbelés. D'abord accueillis en libérateurs par les républicains, les soldats britanniques deviennent rapidement une armée d'occupation.
They're here to protect the state of Northern Ireland. They occupied 6 counties. So that turned me and my generation against the British. The reaction then is that you want to do something. And that something for me was to join the Republican movement. And then once you took that decision, there was only 2 things was ever going to happen. Was you were either going to go to prison or else you were either going to go to the graveyard. I was one of the lucky ones. I'm a survivor.
Cette frontière marque pour longtemps la division entre quartiers républicains et loyalistes et renvoie à la construction d'identités nationales séparées.
Belfast, bloody Belfast. I was born in Belfast and lived in Lancaster Street, a street whose most famous sons included world boxing champion John Joseph Rinty Monaghan and renowned Irish artist John Norbury. We never spoke much of the gifted man for the simple reason that he committed one of the most unpardonable sins known to us, accepting a knighthood from the British Empire. From a street that would see 3/4 of its male population turned without trial, or sent to long cash by the infamous non-jury show trials of Diplock, it was easy to understand why. My name is Sam Miller. I'm a writer. I was born in Belfast. I lived there most of my life until I went to America. The walls are a joke. They were put up by the British to divide Protestants and Catholics and to make the British out to be the good guys. The British are always the good guys. They're always stopping these crazy Protestants and these crazy Catholics from killing each other. We all know that's not true, but this is what they do. They portray it. They put up these walls. And what have the walls done? They've made people afraid of each other. How can you know your neighbour when there's a wall, a giant wall? We knocked down the Berlin Wall, but we're building more walls here by the British. What does that say? What does that tell you? It tells you this place is a failure, that people still believe that these walls exist. And not only does it exist physically, when you have a wall, it starts to involve you mentally. So psychologically, the walls exist in people's minds. The wall is talking to them, telling them, bad people, bad people. So the wall is dictating to them what they should live, how they should live. Because how can they come out of their house and get a bus into town and sit together with Catholics and Protestants? No problems, coffee, talk about football and whatever. But yet, once they go back to where the wall is, they change. They say, thank God the wall's there to protect me. And that's why while there's walls, there'll always be that suspicion, and there'll always be people who do not want to unite, because the walls are telling them, don't unite. The monster is on the other side waiting for you, and you need these walls to protect you.
As you can see, the powers that be say bring down the peace wall, take away the gates, we all gonna live happy together in peace. But to be able to do that, you have to have more than this. Scenes of desolation within the Shankill area. No investment by the government, and what hope have the people in this area if our government doesn't even look to help us? My name's Paul Ferguson. I have lived in Belfast all my life. For the last 10 years, I've been a paid worker for the West Belfast Athletic and Cultural Society. The war allegedly is over since 1994, but the communities are still kept apart. People keep saying about a peace process. It's not a peace process. It's an absence of violence process. Because if there was peace, the walls wouldn't be there. One of the major problems that I have found with everybody who says the walls should come down, nobody has any idea what they're going to put in their place. The walls in some areas are people's back gardens. Take away the wall, what happens? What are you going to do? Are you going to put out somebody's back garden and just leave it open? Are you going to close it off? There's empty spaces, there's memorial gardens, there's different bits and pieces. What are you going to do? Somebody has to think this through and actually say, well, if we take these walls away, what are we going to give the people in its place? Not just the taking away of a wall. You can't just take things away and leave a vacuum. You have to put something in, and you also have to make it worthwhile for people to actually want the walls to come down. One of the hardest things in the human condition is change. People like the status quo. People like the way things are. You have to have an enticement. You have to have a reason for them to do it. Oh, just take the wall so we can all live together happy. That's not really the way it works. You have to make it for people's benefit. But that would mean the government taking control and actually doing something for the benefit of the people they're supposed to represent. people come here for a holiday, to make a vacation, or to do anything like that there, it's as quick as they can get up the Falls Road and down the Shankill Road. It's like they have a checklist. Must go to the Giant's Causeway, must go to the Game of Thrones, must do the Falls Shankill. 4 million people come, but we don't make an awful lot of money out of those 4 million. People in the centre of the town, the big businesses make money. The bars, the restaurants in the centre of the town. You've been along the wall. There's absolutely no economic activity along the wall. That's the longest peace wall in Northern Ireland. There's no economic activity. The tourists come up, have a wee look around, go down, what is it, they go up the falls and down the Shankill, and then they go back into the town. They don't create anything for the people here except make them feel uncomfortable, because it's like you're an animal on exhibition in a zoo. That's what it feels like. People taking photographs and pointing at you.
Ici, au centre-ville, le conflit qui touche durablement les quartiers ouvriers n'existe pas. La mémoire collective de la violence est gommée. La municipalité fait appel à un passé lointain pour renouveler et promouvoir l'image de la ville. Près du front de mer, un nouveau quartier a vu le jour, le Titanic Quarter. Il doit son nom au célèbre bateau construit sur les chantiers navals de Belfast. Le musée du Titanic, qui a ouvert ses portes en 2012, en est le point d'attraction. Au fond, cette partie de la ville ressemble à n'importe quelle capitale européenne.
How are you doing? I'm not too bad.
In the community, we're in favour of the fourth one, the second
exactly.
proposal.
Oh, see the see-through structure? It makes sense for all sorts of reasons.
Yes.
I mean, so the fact that you can see through it, I mean, to me, if you have closed gates, that leads to closed mains.
Closed mains, yes.
Whereas if you open the gates, you're opening.
We had always talked about the
hearts.
prospects of changing the gates for the better.
And that's why you see the beyond the gates.
There was no communication between the two communities before the gate process came along. I regret that slightly, because I think once the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process was put into play, I think these communities should have set about making that change. For whatever reason, that never happened.
After 50 years of conflict, we can learn to live together. We can learn to understand that we have more in common than what divides us. So instead of which church you go to, let's concentrate on which class we belong to and go forward campaigning together for a better future.
Terry McCorrin. I'm the head coach and founder of the City of Belfast Boxing Academy. We're in East Belfast, and a lot of people would describe this as a loyalist area. Maybe a place that a lot of people will see on TV for reasons that aren't just quite so good, because a lot of violence and a lot of rioting and trouble. We're right on the peace line. The building actually is part of the peace line, part of the division line that separates the two communities. It's hard to believe we still have them this long on after a ceasefire. It's, you know, do we really need them? Is it keeping people safe, or is it keeping people apart? That's what we have to ask ourselves. And I think by putting doors and maybe gates and walls around various areas, That should be maybe where we start. We start to let people come together through the doors and the gates. Two shots, 3 shots, and get up. There you go. Northern Ireland and boxing goes back a long way. Boxing all around the world, I think, has been a working class sport. It's a passion for me. It probably helps keep me alive because I suffer with my depression. I have a reason to come up, to get out of bed, to come down and help. In the working class areas, boxing, we've had world champions, we've had Olympic medalists. I went to school with a boy called John Lowy, who is from my own town, Dundonald, who went and boxed for Ireland in the Olympics, and his father was a loyalist prisoner in prison at the time and sat in prison watching his son carry the Irish flag for Ireland at the Olympics and was exceptionally proud of him. These two communities have so much more in common than they don't have in common. The only thing they don't have in common is some might go to a different church, and some might call themselves British, some might call themselves Irish. But the things that they have in common are trying to pay the bills, unemployment, their children getting a good education, having a good health service. Those are the things that are really important that they have in common. That's a common struggle between them. Step. There we go. You like Papa Boom, don't you? Up, 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 up. Good. Okay. I'm going to put in here. Okay. So, up in, body shot. That's it. The first day we moved in, and I had a look round, and I realised that there was a place where we could have a door. I thought to myself, I think that's possible. We could put a door in there. Welcome to Narnia, as I call it, my door into another world at some stage. This wall is the peace wall, interface wall, dividing wall, whatever you like to call it. This is the wall that you've seen outside that runs into the building. So this building is actually physically part of the wall, and this is where we want the doorway for the community on the other side of the wall to be able to come in and use the facilities here. But unfortunately, with politics in Northern Ireland, it's a very, very slow process. It's a wall, so they can't walk through a wall. So if there's a door, they can knock the door, turn the handle, and come in. If they don't want to come in, they don't have to come in, but they have the choice. And having the choice is the most important thing. All they have to do is open the door, and they're transported into that other community. And I don't want it to be the other community, I want it to be their community. I want this to be a community within two communities, so that people from two communities come together in this community. And that hallway is the walkway of them coming together. Almost, they come through the door, there's a corridor, and I want that corridor to symbolise, and the door to symbolise the walk of unity.
Dans le quartier de Shankill, on efface peu à peu les stigmates de la guerre. Les artistes investissent la rue. Les fresques à la gloire des groupes paramilitaires laissent la place à des images illustrant la vie de ce quartier. Les habitants sont salués, les femmes honorées, les enfants gratifiés.
Whoa, go! Oh.
There are Russian reporters here, so if they talk to you, do tell them back. So I'm stopped, and he said, "Are you a Catholic?" And I said, "Yes, I've just been to mass." And he said, "How do you feel? How do you feel about the Protestants?" I says, "What do you mean? How do I feel about the Protestants?" He said, all of the bad happenings. But I said, "There's bad happenings on both sides." And I says, I said anybody's entitled to be whatever religion they want. As long as they don't try to push it down my throat, I'm quite happy.
Yeah, there are people who are very full of hatred, yes.
Well, yes, it says, but the hatred is bred by fear. That's all it is. You don't, what you fear you will hate, but that's the only circumstances. And so the Protestant population in the north of Ireland here are trained nearly from birth to fear the Catholics, as if we're all going to get up and do something. Oh God, yes. Wow. Do we like to dance here?
Oh yes,
we do. Yes.
It's a lovely atmosphere.
It is lovely, and
we have
bus
days,
runs,
we have trips away.
Yes, and bus runs and everything
Bus
else.
runs.
Yeah, you know. I talk to everybody anyway, you see, it doesn't matter. I mean, if I'm sitting beside you in the bus, I'll end up talking to you, you know. So,
well, I'll tell you this. This is two of the women there, I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago, were going to Rome. So somebody
She's
wasn't
been to every
well.
Catholic shrine there is, you know.
Somebody wasn't well, and they said, "Oh, Elsie, would you not come?" So I went to Rome, and they had tickets to see the Pope. So
you went
Pope
and saw
was
the
driving
yeah.
round, and you'd have thought he was waving. Here, what is he
Me,
waving at you for? I
you.
said, "That because he knows I'm a Protestant." But you know, we have that atmosphere
But we do,
in here.
we do.
That we're, you know, mix
But
with
that
each
does
other.
exist, you see, but
That's right.
among the people. As I say, the people generally are just as they always were. And the Protestants are just as hospitable as the Catholics and vice versa. And you know, when we're all dead, there's nobody comes around and says, "Is that a Catholic or a Protestant?" You know, and nobody is going to ask you when you get wherever you're going, "What are you?" You know, it's what did you do and what did you not do and all the rest of it.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
God bless all here.
God bless everybody.
Including the friends.
Right, bye. And the best of luck to you all, is right.
Le tag Irish Forget the Past, Irlandais oublie ton passé, a disparu. 8 ans. 8 années de travail intercommunautaire pour changer ce portail. Symbole de la division, de la séparation, il a aussi permis la discussion entre ces deux communautés. Leur processus de paix a enfin débuté. Bien au-delà du portail, un premier pas.
It's a long way to make it, but it's even harder to keep it. Because it doesn't make a matter what area of Belfast is at peace. It just takes one issue to raise its head in another part of the city, and all of a sudden you're back to square one. So we are working day by day. We never schedule any more than a week, because Belfast is at that stage now. You throw Brexit into the mix, you have the peace process, you have a non-functioning government. Belfast is being used as a tool at the minute, globally, and at any point in time, we could be in serious trouble.
So Brexit has destroyed Britain. What the ARA couldn't do, Brexit has done. They talk about leaving Europe. Ireland's part of Europe, but they say, well, we don't want to leave Ireland. We're staying here with our guns. And I keep saying, well, why do you want only a small country? Leave. But they won't leave, and this is the curse of the Irish. We got them here, we got the British here, and they don't want to leave. I say to Europeans, you just don't know how lucky you are. You're getting rid of them. We can't get rid of them, no matter what we do.
And thank God I went to prison, because I had 16 years in prison to have time to think and to read and to educate myself. I didn't educate myself by studying English, maths, geography, right? Science. I read and thought for myself and began to think, you know, it's not black and white, it's not as simple. Do you know the biggest change there is in me, Sylvie? The biggest change in me is that I'm prepared to listen to Robert McClenaghan. That's not to say that he will convince me that he's right and I'm wrong, but I'm prepared to listen. 40 years ago, I was prepared only to react. And that's the difference. And the reason I was only prepared to react is because I was brought up in a way that I didn't need to listen, because what I was fed at my mother's knee was the way it was. And she was fed the same at her mother's knee.
1, 2, 3, go! What we need to do is to let the Irish people, by way of referendum, North and South, finally, 100 years later, have a referendum on Irish unity. So for the next 2 to 3 years, we should have the discussion among the Falls and the Shankill and among everybody about what they want to see happen. If we have a referendum, struggle never ends. Struggle just changes. So once we get a united Ireland, then we have to talk about what type of Ireland. Is it going to be a capitalist Ireland? Is it going to be a socialist Ireland? And I would like to think that me and Robert, or me and Noel, would all be on the left together, fighting those who are opposing us from a class point of view.
You know, if unionists feel that they're the minority, a new political future is being imposed on them, it would be quite similar to what happened here for nationalists, you know, something like 100 years ago. There'd be a real need to work closely with Protestants and Unionists and Loyalists to ensure that they feel that they are a real part of whatever new political structure emerges.